Hey, welcome everybody. This is John Palmadutch, Dr. Speed Selling, and this is Raging Verbalist number 203. Raging Verbalist is where I talk about something that interests me. Don't dive into politics. If you're new, great. Thanks. Hit that like button, subscribe, notifications if you want to get harassed every week. Also, you can see us on YouTube and Facebook. If you're a long timer, thanks for coming. Appreciate that you're here. And with me, as always, is the ever lovely Sandra. Welcome, Sandra.
Hello, how are you doing?
Doing well. I'm excited. I'm at a secret location for this very special Raging Verbalist.
All right, awesome. So with that, we are talking about SpeedStart Monday 1000. So why did you start SpeedStart Monday?
Well, first, the reason why I started it, we'll get to, but SpeedStart Monday, for those of you who don't know, is a weekly, 50 times a year webinar series that I do. And it is for people who either have a sales meeting that they hate, boo hiss, or they don't have one at all. We get together, 50 times a year, Mondays, sometimes Tuesdays because of holidays and travel. So here's why I started SpeedStart Monday, which is I started years ago doing some sales training, and I realized that what would happen is that people would come to an event, they'd hear a bunch of stuff, they get all charged up, they get all excited. Maybe I was that motivational mindset, getting up there, fire and brimstone, getting them charged up, getting them doing all those things. And then I would talk to them a couple of weeks later or a month later or whatever, and I say, how are things going? And they're like, well, kind of in a sales slump, kind of in this, kind of in that. And I realized that if you didn't get something into your head every single week, and I was already doing that for myself, that most people don't have a way of doing that. So I started SpeedStart Monday because I wanted to have a sales meeting. I wanted to have a way to prep people. Now, if they had a sales meeting, usually it was the boss coming in saying, we've got to sell more, or this is a new product that we're pitching, or there's higher commission rates or spiffs as they're called on certain items, and then go out there and get them. And of course, the sales team would get together and they would dutifully listen to this, kind of put up with it and away they go. Very little in the way of learning about sales techniques and tools and tactics and strategies and all of those things. So I decided I wanted to provide just that. I wanted to provide useful information that was actionable and people, sales pros could use it right then and there.
And was this the first webinar series you ever did?
It was not. In fact, prior to this, I was doing a series called 50 Fridays to Financial Freedom. I mean, I know that's a lot of F's without the F word. And what it was is that every Friday afternoon, I would do talk about a topic about how to have a right money mindset and how to go out and make money and how to do all this. And I had two attendees, two guys, both named John. So there were three of us. So these two guys got together and said, hey, John, can you do a conference call? We'd like to talk to you about it. And they said, hey, we love 50 Fridays to Financial Freedom. However, you get us all charged up, get us all excited, all revved up and no place to go. And it's a Friday afternoon. Nobody wants to talk to us on Friday afternoon because everybody's, kind of checking out, going home for the weekend, doing all those other things. So I said, so what are you guys thinking? And they said, well, it would really be great is if we had something on a Monday morning or a Monday or Tuesday or sometime early in the week, because that way we could implement, things that you're sharing, implement the things you're talking about, and go out and get the most use for it. Because by the time we get to Monday after Friday, again, the mind wanders, life intrudes, shit happens, and before you know it, you're back to, not quite zero, but you're pretty close to it. So yeah, I had done that, and I had learned a lot by doing that weekly, and I had made a decision that had to be the frequency, because again, if you give any kind of break in this thing, if you don't have repetition, but it is this continuously making sure that your mind gets conditioned, what happens is that you stop making progress, and it's a little bit like exercise or doing anything like that. So I believe that was the best way to do it. So yes, this was not the first, but it really made a lot of sense because I've learned a lot from the other.
And when you were starting out, what was the original feedback from your mastermind group?
So I was a member of Dan Kenny's Platinum Group, and everybody else had, kind of coaching calls, group coaching calls they did, and what they're talking about. So I sat around the table with all these, really good marketers, really smart people, really admired and respected everybody. And I said, hey, this is what I'm going to do. I call it SpeedStart Monday, and you're going to change the way people think about Monday, because here's where that original idea came from, is that when I was kind of transforming myself into really becoming super solid in selling, lots of S's there too. What I did was I figured out that I needed to listen to Tom Hopkins, How to Master the Art of Selling Anything. And I would listen to those hour after hour after hour. Actually, when I first moved to California, 6 hours a day, 6 days a week, took off Sundays because, of course, one needs a day of rest. And then Monday morning, I was still charged up. So I thought, okay, every Monday we'll do this, because Monday is a very important day. So I told everybody about it. And then around the table, everybody kind of made, a bet, a figurative bet, by saying, how many will John do before he stops? Now, understand this was a direct marketing group, and most of them were never going to talk to their audiences about selling or what selling was involved with. So people started picking numbers. Well, he'll do 6 of them. Maybe he'll do 10. Maybe he'll do 12. Dan was the most optimistic in my memory at 25. And Dan was also very positive and felt that salespeople would react positively to this. So everybody kind of, chided me and said, well, what are you going to really talk about from, more than 6 of these? Well, we're well over 993 of them now and counting. So yeah, there's a lot to talk about.
And how did you figure out the format for SpeedStart Monday?
Well, the format was really interesting, because when I sat down to do this, I said, okay, how do you map this out? And I knew that I needed to develop it and produce it like you would produce a show. Now, most of the webinars had kind of these funky formats. I mean, one of the formats that was suggested to me was, well, John, what you do is you take you take your material and you divide it into thirds. In the beginning, you tell everybody what you're going to talk about, and then you tell them about it, right? And that's the big bulk. That's Act 2. And then Act 3 is you tell them what you told them, and then you wrap up and you're done. So that way you can have less material to deliver. It's easier to do it, and away you go. Now, I found that to be kind of maybe working, and I was working through that process. But eventually what I figured out was that the way that this thing works for me, and the majority of those sessions that I've done, is that what I do is I get up early on Monday morning. I have a blank sheet. I used to have a form that I used. I moved away from that years ago. And what I would do is I would sit there and I would start writing. And I get up at 4:30 a.m. Pacific time if I'm on the West Coast. And I have to write out essentially 1-page script. Now, it's a script that only I'm going to see. I'm not sending this out to anybody or doing any of that. And what I do is I write out the script on a quadrille pad and I lay it out, and then that way I've got it. And I have to get it done by 7 a.m. because 7 a.m. I go live. People have asked me if I practice. I've had a lot of people ask me if I should, tell me I should do it the day before. None of that works as well as that being in that live moment, being in that pressure cooker, being ready to go, because spontaneity is important. In selling, we need to be spontaneous. In selling, we need to go out there and do it right now. We can't say to somebody who offers up an objection or takes us in a different way or is coming up with things that we need to go through. You can't say, well, wait, stop. I'm going to go out to the car and I'm going to work this up, and you guys just sit here, talk amongst yourselves, and I'll come back. So I realized that you couldn't do that. And I definitely couldn't do that when I was doing SpeedStart Monday. So I kick it off and I start and away I go. So I developed it over a period of time. And by doing that, I learned a very valuable lesson, which is the power of live And that means that once you get started, you don't stop, and it teaches you a lot about it. So if you ever become a subscriber, because it is subscription based, and you show up, what you'll find out is that this thing starts and goes for an hour, and away we go. Now, one of the things I can tell you that it helped me do is it helped me figure out how to get my ideas and thoughts together, so I can give you an idea of how to make sure that your business does well. And that is, if you don't want to come on SpeedStart Monday for whatever reason, you can always check out and get my book. Most businesses fail in the first 5 minutes. It just takes them 3 to 5 years to realize it. Position to Win. This is available on the Position to Win book website, positiontowinbook.website.com, not book.com. You can also get it at Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Books A Million physically, or you can get it digitally on Kindle, Nook, and Apple iBooks. So that's that book. And this book is Remote Work for a Better World, which basically will help you work in a remote way. If you're in sales of any kind, you should become a Zoom master or a video conference master, and that's one way to do it. So those are some other resources that you can go check out. Also, you can go to speedselling.com, and that's where you'll find SpeedStart Monday, but we'll tell you more about that in just a second. All right, what's next, Sandra?
All right, so how did you prepare to first start doing SpeedStart Monday?
Well, there's a lesson in this. I mean, I can tell you that it all started off, fine and dandy, or as the British say, tickety-boo. But I had 3 coaches that I was working with at the time. And because of them, they probably delayed me by 18 months. Now, I take full responsibility. We are always responsible for our own lives, our own decisions, our own stuff, right? So it's my responsibility. So I had these 3 coaches, and everybody had different opinions. Most people said, John, deliver, 10-minute snippets or 3-minute snippets or something. And I wanted to really dig in deep. I wanted to give people graduate level sales information, graduate level, PhD. I wanted you to be amazingly good. I wanted to have a platform. See, if somebody doesn't give you a platform, you create one. Well, I created a platform called SpeedStart Monday. And that meant that I could work on a topic for a period of time. I could talk about something like the color of money for several sessions. I could talk about power, money, and control and how people are motivated. I can talk about that for an extended period of time. Now, the reason why I wanted to do that is I wanted to get to a very granular level. So once I got past all that great advice and I got to a format that works and started doing it, then I had to make a commitment, not only to myself, but to my subscribers, to everyone. And, I've been asked, are there ever any Mondays that you get up that you don't necessarily want to do it? I can tell you that there are very few times that I actually have to set an alarm. I do, just to make sure, because one is done. Always make sure you have a backup. But usually I wake up and my brain is rolling, just like earlier this week when I was, preparing for SpeedStart Monday. Woke up, brain was on fire. I knew what I needed to talk about. I knew what I needed to do, and just went for it, start writing it. And again, the power of that deadline, the statement years ago that was said that a man who knew he was going to be hanged in a fortnight tends to focus the mind. Well, if you know you're going to go live at 7 a.m., tends to get you into a right mindset, and it was a great way to do it. So I ended up probably being delayed. I would have probably had another 150 more of these. And by the way, once I realized that I was going to do them every single Monday, I have traveled with people who've tried to talk me out of doing it. I have had to delay some of these, like I had an operation and I had to delay it. It's hard to explain to people how dedicated that one must become. It's a great discipline. And so, yeah, that's, by the way, none of the coaches made it. They all got fired and they're gone.
And how is SpeedStart Monday different than other webinars?
Well, it's different because I don't do the triple. I don't give you a preview and then I give you a little morsel and then I tell you what I told you. Also, there's no bitching. I don't have a lot of people bitching about things. I don't sit there and bitch about sales. I don't sit there and go, wow, life sucks. I don't talk about, death of a salesman. I don't talk about those things. I do talk about tough topics. I don't ever shy away from the realities of doing what I do, of what I'm very capable of doing, of how important selling is. Gary Halbert, the famous or infamous copywriter, had a coaching session with him. He asked me what I did. I said speed selling. Gary was a little bit of a, well, it wasn't a little bit. He was a big drug user. And he goes, speed. Oh, sounds good. I said, no, not that kind of speed, Gary. And he said, well, what do you do? And I said, well, I teach people how to sell and sell faster. And Gary's wicked rapier response was, nobody wants to learn how the fuck to sell. And I said, so you're telling me selling isn't important? He goes, no, selling's essential. I mean, without it, no business exists, no transaction happens. It's just that nobody wants to learn it. And then Gary gave me some advice, which of course, was taking me off topic. So we never went that way. So it's different because there's no bitching. By the way, there's no breaks. It's 1 hour of material. I start it. I gotta, away we go. And the other thing is there's virtually no guests. Oh, and there's no pitching. I don't have a pitch. See, a lot of times I joined, in fact, one of the first things I did when I got interested in this world and had met Kennedy and Jay Abraham and Gary Halbert and all these guys, I'd go on these webinars, and somewhere about 20 minutes into an hour-long webinar, the pitch would roll out. And there was always a pitch. Now, I can tell you that it would be great. I would love to just sit there and pitch, but pitching ends up being a real decided negative. I want to give true, serious content and hardcore content. I'm going to tell you not the happy, joy school of how things work. I'm going to tell you that you got to go out there, and I'm going to use the worst word that most people will ever hear. And it is the W word, and that is work. And that is selling is work. You got to go work. And as that illustrious philosopher Brittany Spears says, you got to work, bitch. Well, you got to work. And so it's different because if you come on SpeedStart Monday, make sure that you have, assuming you're not doing anything dangerous at all, it's my disclaimer, but make sure that you can take notes, you can listen to it. 100% of them are recorded, and away we go. And my goal is to deliver right on the nose, hard news, hard, tough insights and abilities for you to go out and do something with. So that's where I think it's different. It's not mamby-pamby. We're not trying to make anybody feel good. We're not having people come on and emote and do all this other stuff. There's no crying on SpeedStart Monday. Let's just put it that way.
And are you optimistic that there is still more to talk about in selling at 1,000? Have you exhausted everything to talk about?
I realized years ago that there is an unlimited opportunity to innovate in marketing and sales. And by the way, that's the right way to say it. It's not sales and marketing. Sales and marketing, spell S&M, which is pain. No, it's marketing and sales. And we have an unlimited opportunity. And therefore, it keeps going. And it keeps going because new technologies show up, new techniques show up. Some things that were old before that were hard to do become much easier. Some things go out of fashion. So I think that there are, assuming that I want to keep doing them, and I keep wanting to do them, but there is so much more to cover that will blast right through 1,000. 1,000 is a big number. It means that I've been doing this for, knock on wood, a little superstitious from my Vegas days, is that we're going to hit 1,000 of these. And we've cataloged them. We have them out on a server. And that means that, that you can actually go back and listen to specific topics. The key to all of selling is making sure that you have the right answer at the right time, at the right place, and therefore you can help them make a decision, the right decision, the correct decision, and find the path forward so they get to where they should go. That's really the key. Most of the time, people will come to me and say, professionals, unprofessionals, just starting out, John, I want a great script. How do I get the best script? Well, the best scripts are the ones that work, but more importantly, it's the ones that you'll use. So do we have more in the tank? Do we have more things to talk about without wrapping back around? I think the most interesting thing is that 98 years ago, 1925, there was a guy named Hubble. And Hubble discovered that the Milky Way, which up until that point in time was thought to be the only galaxy. And he realized that there were galaxies upon galaxies upon galaxies. Now, I'm not saying that, like Hubble, I have found that there are sales methodologies and techniques and things that are beyond and way beyond to millions and billions and trillions. But I'm going to tell you, there's a lot more to go. So I'm very excited about the future and where SpeedStart Monday is headed.
And how would someone find out about SpeedStart Monday?
So one of the things you can do is you can go to speedselling.com, speedselling.com. You can also go to positiontowinbook.com and check out the book. If you want to just get a little taste of that, you can find other things through positiontowinbook.com. I've been asked why I didn't just turn this over and open it up to YouTube and have people watch it and have the stuff become free. And it is for fee. The reality is that most people, if they do not pay for something, and I'm talking about like 99+%, don't value it. In fact, I am assured of that. Now, I have offered deals, and in the future, I may offer deals. But what I can tell you is that if you join, if you come along, and yes, this is a shameless plug, that you will learn more about selling if you are up to it than you've ever thought possible. Because not only have I studied selling going back to antiquity, but I've also added all of the other elements that I learned from my Vegas days, from my turnaround days, from all the things that I've done. So if you go and you check it out and you go find out and say, I want to go do that, that would be great. And of course, the thing that you really want to do is make sure that you have no excuses. You get off of your ass, and no matter what time zone you're in, is you show up on time, you take notes, you learn something, and what you say to yourself is, what would I apply today that I've learned right now that are going to change my sales, not in some mythical time in the future, but right now. And if you do that, all of my efforts, all of the time that I have spent will have been worth every single second. So I'm John Paul Mendoza, Dr. Speed Selling. We've been talking about SpeedStart Monday, number 1000. And for myself and the ever lovely Sandra, this has been the Raging Verbalist number 203. Hopefully you'll come back and maybe you'll even check out SpeedStart Monday. Until next time, thank you.